Good evening, stampers. My name is Juanette, and I'm an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator in the United States. I sell the products that I feature in this video tutorial. So if you would like any of these products, you may shop at my online store 24/7. Today, I'm going to be showing you how to do partial die cutting and die cutting inlay technique. This is a Christmas card that I've made for somebody very, very special. The finished card ends up being about 5 3/4 by 5 3/4. And in the description is all the supplies you will need to make this card. So what you're going to start out with is a piece of Whisper White cardstock that measures 12 by 6. You're going to score it on the 12-inch side at 6. Then you're going to fold it in half, burnish it, and that is your card base. Then you will also need a piece of 6 by 6 light wood grain paper for the front of the house. You will glue it to the front of the white cardstock, and I got mine offline just a tab, so I cut off about 1/8 of an inch from both sides, or both top and bottom and the side. Then you will take your rectangle stitch framelit die. I use the 4th one from the largest for the front door using the partial die cutting technique. The inside of this die measures 3 3/4 by 2 3/4. So what you want to do is line it up so that you make sure that you have about 1.5 inches on both sides of the door, 1/2 inch from the bottom, and about 1.5 inches from the top. And then that way you will be able to put your stained glass window on the top. Now, I have slowed this down to show you how to do this partial die cutting. So you tape your die to your cardstock and then place it on whatever die cutting machine you are using. Then you take your top plate, lay it on top of the die, but do not cover the area that you don't want cut. So in this case, I don't want that left side cut because that will help our door swing open. I just want both the top and bottom and the right side to cut, but not the left side. So it takes a little bit of finagling to get it in your die cutting machine, but it can be done and the results are fantastic. So then I remove my little sticky purple tape, and you can see that the door is not cut on that left hand side. So then you are going to take your scoring board, lay your card over it, and then only score from the top to the bottom on that left hand side, just so that you can fold that door open. So you'll have to find where that is on your score pal just by kind of finagling with the grooves. If you need to, you can cut up both sides to meet that score line so that your door opens up nicely. So then I cut out the stained glass top that I'm using from the Stained Glass Thinlet Dies found on page 195 of the catalog. And this is how you do the die cutting inlet technique. So all the pieces that were inside of the die I saved. Then I took a little bit of that shimmer paint, some rubbing alcohol, put it in a spritzer, shook it up, and then sprayed it over those inlets or those pieces that were inside of that stained glass window. And because I used gold shimmer paint, it gives you the impression that there is light coming through there. So what you're going to do is apply glue in each one of those little spaces, and then pick up the coordinating piece that would go in there, just like that last piece there, and press it down. And it really looks wonderful. I'm not sure if the camera will pick it up as nicely as it looks. Then I use the At Home With You stamp and die set for the garland, the welcome mat, the wreath, and the window for the front door. Now, unfortunately, these stamps and dies are retired. However, you could use just about anything that you might have in your stash. You could just use a little rectangle die there for that window. You could just stamp welcome onto a piece of scrap whisper white and cut it out with any kind of a die or even just your scissors. And many of our stamp sets have wreaths in them, so you could also use that. So I also cut out a piece of real red cardstock using the rectangle die, and I will lay that over the front so that my door is red. But so that I have it aligned correctly, I took this small little die, laid it over the red piece of cardstock, took a pencil, marked where it would lay, taped it down, and cut it out. So now when I take the red piece of the door and lay it over, it will fit perfectly. I also stamped the details of the front door using Memento Tuxedo black ink. Then I applied liquid glue to the back of it and adhered it to the front of my card. I also had small little dies to stamp out and cut a little knocker and the door handle. And you can see that door opens up nicely. So then I took the Beauty and Joy stamp set, and right there is what I used for my greenery for both sides of the door. I took real red ink to stamp the little container that the plant goes in, and because I want one on each side of my door, I did it twice. Then I took soft suede ink, laid down the trunk of what would be the little plant there, applied ink to that, and then stamped that again twice. Then I took the greenery aligned that up, then took shaded spruce ink, applied that to my stamp, and if you notice real close, I didn't align it quite as well as I should have, but that is an easy fix because I took the soft suede stamping blend and connected the trunk to the greenery so it looks seamless. It also has a small little stamp that you could put little red berries in, but I decided to use the red rhinestone basic jewels. And like I said, I used that soft suede to connect the trunk. Then I also took Wink of Stella and applied some to both the pot that the little greenery is in and also the greenery itself. Then I fussy cut them out because there is not a die for this stamp set. Applied Stampin' Dimensionals and adhered them to both sides of the front of my card. And they fit just perfectly there. Now I took some gray granite from the stamping blends, and I didn't want those pots just to be kind of floating there, so I first added a little bit of shadow there. I still didn't like quite how it looked, so I added a little bit more shadow down there all across the bottom of it. Then adhered that welcome sign, or welcome mat, I should say. There's the little door knocker. And I still was not happy with the way it looked at the bottom. So I decided to draw in some brick looking, marks there so that it would look a little bit more grounded, and I used the darker gray granite stamping blend. And I think it looks a lot better with that. If you're interested in knowing how a true professional does coloring, you need to watch Sandy Alnuck, her YouTube channel, because she is absolutely fantastic. Please subscribe to her channel. So then I took the Holly Jolly Christmas bundle and I stamped out the Santa using Memento Tuxedo Black ink. We're only going to use the bottom of him because he's going to be hanging out of the chimney or the fireplace. Then I also took the At Home With You stamp set to have some garland around the fireplace, and this is how you can line these up when you have those what are those called? Polywogs. Oh, my brain has left me. I can't remember what those things are called. I don't know, those flimsy dies, which are fantastic because you can see through them. But anyway, you lie your die down, then lay the stamp over it, and then pick the stamp up with your Stamparatus, then remove the die, ink it up, and I used Versamark ink there because I'm going to gold emboss that. And I gold embossed both that garland, the gifts, the wreath. I think that was it. So you apply your gold embossing powder, and you can see a little bit up on that left-hand side. I didn't get quite enough. I used my embossing buddy first. Then you tap it off, flick it off. Use your heat gun to heat it up, and that will melt that embossing powder. Then I colored them in, again using real red stamping blends and the shaded spruce ones. So then I die cut out the Santa, which there is a die for that. Then I applied a little bit of that purple tape so that when I use the snowfall accents for the cuffs of his Santa suit, that it wouldn't go on his boots or his pant legs. So again, I applied just a little bit of that purple tape just so that only the cuffs of his suit would show. So you need to shake up that snowfall accents. It is quite liquid, and as you can see, I'm using my trusty hemostats to hold it down while I use my heat gun. And again, I think I've mentioned it in another video, if you start up high first and start warming that liquid up, then slowly bring it down as it melts, it won't blow off your cardstock. And you can see how fantastic that looks. You can use it for, like I said, for this. You use it for snow, on top of trees. It is a really fun product. And I love how white it comes out. Then I removed the purple tape and took my real red stamping blend, colored the bottom of his Santa suit. Then I took my black stamping blend and colored his boots. I used the darker one just because I wanted a real intense red. Then for the fireplace, you will need a piece of 4x3 real red cardstock. What you're going to do is come in about 1 inch on each side with your trimmer and cut up to about 1.5 inch mark, and then all the way across to remove the opening of the fireplace. Then I took the brick and mortar embossing folder and ran that over the fireplace. For the inside of the fireplace, that is a piece of 4¼ by 1½ gray granite cardstock, and I took some basic gray ink and used a ink dauber to just put a little bit of that basic gray ink over it, just to make it look like soot there. And it is a little bit longer than the fireplace, but that's not a problem because we will just trim that off. So what you're going to do is glue your Santa, applying some liquid glue to the front of him, and then just adhere him to the fireplace so he looks like he's coming down the chimney. Then apply liquid glue to both sides of the fireplace and glue that piece of gray granite cardstock to the bottom. And then, like I said, I know it's a little bit too long there, but I wanted to make sure it fit nicely. So then just take your paper snips and trim off both sides. Then for your mantle, you're going to take a piece of 4.5 by 1/2 inch of a dark wood grain cardstock for the mantle. And again, you want this a little bit longer than the fireplace because you want it to hang over on both sides of the fireplace. Apply some glue to it and then stick it to the front of your fireplace. Now for my Christmas tree, I used In the Woods Framelit Dies, and I cut out 2. One, I used the glimmer paper, but I felt it was just a little bit too shiny. So the other one, I cut it out using the shimmer paper instead of the glitter paper, and it wasn't shiny enough. So I took some of our shimmer paint with a paintbrush and added just a little bit of that gold to the leaves and to the outside of the tree. It dries fairly quickly, and I used it full strength there. There is the shimmer paint on page, let me see, where is that? I'll have it in the description. I can't remember, I can't see where that is. Oh, 180 of the catalog. But unfortunately, we don't have the glue, but you could use silver or a white. Then I applied glue to the back of that front part of the Christmas tree and laid it over the back of the Christmas tree. And you can see that die cut gives you a lot of really nice dimension to the tree. I love that stamp and die set. So then I wanted a mirror for the over the fireplace, and that is a piece of 2.5 by 2 1/4 silver foil. I glued the garland to the top of it using liquid glue. And then I set that aside for a little bit. Now this is an embossing folder from Paper Discovery, and when I saw this in somebody else's tutorial, I said, oh, I need that, and I absolutely love it. So I took a piece of 6 by 6 Whisper White cardstock, and you know when you emboss something, it kind of shrinks up. So I took double-sided adhesive, and I learned this little trick from Jan B, who's a Stampin' Up demonstrator in the UK. If you just fold down both sides a little bit and bend them over, then you can align the bottom of your piece first, then press down on the top part, remove the other part of the double-sided tape, and your hands won't get sticky. Now, I glued down the mirror, and I had forgot that it is better to use double-sided tape as opposed to liquid glue when you are adhering foil cardstock. It shows through a little bit, or maybe it was the embossing that showed through, but the mirror doesn't look really nice and smooth, but it's nice, but I'm going to try to remember to use the double-sided tape. Then I applied liquid glue to the back of my fireplace. and adhered that down over that mirror. Isn't that a fun embossing folder? Oh, I just love it. Then I just die cut an oval piece of shaded spruce pattern paper for the rug, glued that down. Applied some Stampin' Dimensionals on the back of the wreath and hung that over the mirror. And what I would do next time is probably take some silver string so that it looks like it's not just stuck to the mirror, that it's actually hanging down. You think of those things after the fact sometimes. Then that's just a little candle that is die cut. I'm gluing that to the right side of the mantle. Again, it is colored with real red and shaded spruce. I added a star to my Christmas tree, applied liquid glue to the back of it, and glued it down on top of that rug. I think our room is coming together very nicely. This is so much fun to do. I love scene building. Oh my gosh, it is so much fun. It does take quite a bit of time, but what fun it is. So then for my gifts, I used a pretty pavilion bundle. It has a gift stamp and die in it. I also used Holly Jolly Christmas bundle. It has some gifts. I gold embossed them. I may have used one other stamp set that I have that is retired, but I colored them again in real red and shaded spruce and glued them around our tree and on the floor. Some of them I put Stampin' Dimensionals on so that they were raised up a little bit, and some I just glued down. You can never have too many gifts. I know whomever gets this card, she will love it. Now for the pictures, again, unfortunately, that's from a retired Stampin' Up set. It was called Ready for Christmas Bundle, and I love it. So I gold embossed them, colored them, and then glued them so that there was a little bit more character over on that left-hand side. I will be writing my sentiment on the back of the card, which has remained white. Now, isn't that just fantastic on that left side? But I realized as I was looking at it very closely, I didn't like the left-hand side. Did I say left-hand side right now? I may have. I meant the right-hand side looks good. The left-hand side looks plain. I'll have to go back and listen. Anyway, so what I did is I took another piece of Whisper White 6x6 paper, embossed the room again, but I realized that I wanted to make sure that my little window showed. So I laid the embossed piece of paper down on that right-hand side, closed the card, opened up the door, marked it with a pencil so I would know where I'm going to lay that same rectangle die that we used to cut the red front of the door and to cut the partial die cutting. So it's the same size rectangle die. So then all I do is lay the die over that embossed piece, ran it through my die cutting machine, and you can see there is something to go on the left-hand side. Now, the piece that was in the middle, I wasn't sure if I was going to use it. So initially, I was just going to use the top part of it, but I thought, no, that looks plain. So you're going to see I cut it in half, but I end up using both sides. So I applied liquid glue to the back of this piece and then laid it down over the left side of my room. Sometimes it's difficult to know when to stop with card making and adding things. It's just so much fun. You start digging through your stash and like, oh, I could use that. I could use this. Oh, that's why I doubt if I will ever get rid of any dies or stamps, because you never know when you might use them. So then, like I said, I cut the door, the embossed part of the door in half, because I didn't think I was going to use both sides. But then I decided to. So I took some gold foil and cut out that little window so that it would give a little bit of color there. Applied double-sided tape to it, and then just a tiny little bit of liquid glue in the inside frame and laid that over the door. That embossed piece there. And then I added double-sided tape to the back of that to adhere it over the top. And you can see I've already done that. And now I'm gluing down the bottom. Now let me remind you that as you are gluing that left side, make sure you keep that score line open so that your card will open and close. So this is from the Word Wishes dies, found on page 197 of the annual catalog. I cut 4 of them using the Real Red cardstock, layered them, then added Wink of Stella to them to give a little shimmer, applied glue to them, and adhered them to the left side of the card just because I felt like it needed a little bit something over there. I didn't like that it was so plain looking because there's so much going on the right side. I ended up using my envelope punch board to make a custom envelope for this card. A little bit of glue there to add the little dot for the eye. And this card is finished. Thank you so much for joining me at Juanette's Paper Crafts. And again, if I can help you in any way, please leave me a comment in the comment section. All the measurements will be down in the description. Visit my online store anytime you want. I would love to be your demonstrator. Oh, I just love it. I love how it opens up and you see his little feet hanging there. Oh my gosh, that is so stinking cute. And so now I have to get back to reality. I have to put my stamping supplies away and study for my neonatal resuscitation class that we need to take every 2 years. Bye and have fun.